We're going to go and get started because this is an hour-long presentation that we're going to do in 30 minutes. So the good news is there'll be a download link for the presentation on Twitter when you guys are done. So don't worry about writing everything down because you probably never will get it in time. So to introduce myself, I'm Gregory Shives. My history, I guess, as everybody says, I've been in the industry about 10 years. 5 of that was in AAA. 5 of that was as an indie, running my own studio. And then just recently, I joined Gear Learning, which is an education games studio within the University of Wisconsin, and I'm the studio manager there. I'm a founding member, one of the first 3 for the group that is putting on this conference. 3 years ago, we kind of met over a diagram to talk about what this could look like, so it's super awesome that's actually happening. And I also run the Facebook social group, the Midwest Game Developers, which is about 500 members strong, and it's developers throughout the Midwest for this exact purpose, to put a pin somewhere so that we don't have to go to LA or California anytime we want to talk about games. So the gist of my talk today is the difference that I felt between AAA. I was an animation director, technical animator. That was the skill set that I got into AAA with. When I left there and I went to independent development, it was kind of a shock to me of the tools that I was using, the cost of those tools, how to get a team together, what that cost. And so that's kind of the gist of this talk, is that I want to talk about something that used to happen a little bit on web blogs. I don't know if you guys are into photography, but they used to say, hey, what is in my bag? Right? So it's like they would open up their bag and show you what was in it. And so after going to a lot of these conferences, it's like I could do a talk on here's the 10 things that make you a successful indie, which is no use to me whatsoever. And so I wanted something more tangible. And so that's how this talk came up. So our projector shut off? Awesome. Okay, good start. So that's what I'm going to talk about. These are tools that, how many of you guys are independent developers now? Students? And how many are professional developers, AAA? Okay, cool. So you're going to see different tool sets. So when I came into, so Raven is the studio that I worked for in AAA, and so when I came into Raven, my computer was set up, all my source control was there. I just kind of sat down and, okay, start developing. And then when you get out on your own, you're like, oh, does my computer even run this thing? What is source control? How do I install that? And so over the course of time, and through the work that you pick up as a contractor, you guys do contract work as well? Most of the time, if you're an indie, you're picking up contract work, like to pay your bills. And so what I started to develop was a different toolkit. Do I need to start over? Let's try again. Okay. So what I developed was a toolkit over time that was definitely focused in a different way than it was when I was in AAA. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. So these may be tools different than you're used to seeing. So things that I value or have learned to value, even now being back in the studio for my developers now, revolve around these really small text, this small text. I'll break every PowerPoint rule in this presentation is my goal. So speed, obviously, doesn't matter where you work, you have to work quickly. Mobility, that was something totally new, right? So when I first started, I bought a tower computer, I bought a Cintiq, thought that I was like good to go. And then I went for my first play test out at a coffee shop. So it was like, right, I'll try to figure out a way to bring this computer to the coffee, and I did. I actually brought my tower computer to the coffee shop. The first time I demoed a game at PAX, I had to make art changes. Right, and this is in Seattle. I made it with a mouse. Like, so the night before the build, I was trying to fix some things. I had no tablet. I had no way to draw on the road. I had my Cintiq at home. That's what I used. And so when you think that way, I don't know, somehow you don't plan for things. And so going through these different things, I now look much more towards mobility when I'm selecting both software and your equipment, right? And so that means a laptop versus a tower, right? That means 2-in-1 versus a Cintiq. Right, and so you're constantly trying to think about being mobile. Even as a contractor, you're going to work on site. You have to show up, be ready to work, get right to work. You can't be like, oh yeah, could you install this on your machine for me? I don't have time for that because I have another contract I have to be at noon. right? So I need to sit down, get your work done, here's your stuff, and then I'm moving on, right? So it's a very mobile tool set. Open source is also something that I have come to love, and that's because my entire kit that you'll see that I use is around $3,000, right? And so the price of a Maya license, I don't know if you can even buy Maya anymore. You know, they want you to rent it, or Adobe Suite. As an independent developer, you're looking at every dollar that you're spending, right? And so open source becomes a huge value, and people are like, we can't use open source stuff. Yes, you can. It's fantastic. And you have a community that supports it. So you have like a huge staff of people making things. So a lot of this stuff you'll see is open source and free. And that's my favorite word. And there's a value in that too. Like as you have team members come on that work with you, it's not like, oh yeah, hey, I'm going to buy you a Maya license. No, you know, use a crack version. Right, that's going to be great. So open source, I can sit down on another machine and download the 3 or 4 apps that I use in about 10 minutes on anyone's machine and get to work, right? And so same with contractors that come to work for me. Yeah, it might be different for them, but if I'm hiring you, you're probably good at what you do, and it's not necessarily the application that you're working on. So if you're a teacher, if you're an instructor, like please try to teach something besides Autodesk. I realize they give you free stuff, but there's a huge career path that people can go on that has nothing to do with Autodesk and paying those license fees, right? So you'll see some of those tools here. And then the last 2 are really my success apps. Visually, being able to present problems visually or solve problems visually is one of the things that I think are a core skill to have as a game developer. Everything deals with these last 2, visual or flow. And so you need to be able to explain your ideas. You need to be able to draft out whatever it is, game flow, code flow, whatever it is, you have to be able to draft that out. And if you can do that visually, I've found that I can, and maybe that's just the way I think, I can solve problems quicker if I can put it up in the visual format. And not only that, like a lot of times I need help. Like I may have the pieces together, but I can't exactly fit them together. So if I can throw something up on a blackboard, not whiteboards. Whiteboards are terrible. They're Satan. Use blackboards. Buy some old school chalkboards. Put them in your office. They do wonders for you. But if I can put that problem up there and then somebody else walks by and says, hey, I was looking at this. Let's talk about this. Like that can help you solve problems much easier. So all these tools that I'm about to show you follow these guidelines. Hopefully. Okay, so hardware. Here's really quickly what's in my bag on a daily basis. So everything that's in the middle there, that's pretty much in my bag every day. And it revolves around 2 things. It's a tiny PC. It's an Intel, I don't know how you say it, NUC. It's an i7 standard PC, just in a really small form factor. And then the second part of that is a tablet PC. So something like a Surface Line, or I use an Asus, which is terrible. Don't buy it. But it was cheap. And so I value cheap and effective is good for me. The other stuff that I use, I do some VR work. So on the outside of things, you'll see on the left, or yeah, your left, that's a Razer Core with a 1060 in it. So when I'm doing VR work, I have to be able to step up to that next level. So you're starting to see the technology catch up. The Thunderbolt 3 port allows you to use an external GPU. So that way you can buy cheap equipment and replace those often and still keep your graphics card and be able to do VR development. Same, so the Vive over there on the right. In the back is a Vizio 55-inch TV, 4K TV. They're about $300. They make a fantastic computer monitor. I don't know why everyone hasn't figured this out yet. Like, it's ridiculous when your wife walks in and you just bought a new monitor and it's humongous. You will have to explain that. But it is absolutely worth it for the amount of, like, especially if you're doing code and Unity at the same time, and what you pay for a 4K computer monitor is ridiculous. Like, the resolution is fantastic. I just went to Target, I picked it up. This is the second one I've had. I swear by this. Like, obviously this isn't mobile, that will be in your home office. But give it a shot. You know, just go to Target, take your laptop there and plug it in, and then you'll see. And you're like, cool. So yeah, everything else in the middle, things that I'll point out is the Leap motion controller. You'll see that later, the Connect 2 in the back. The headphones or the earphones, those are range muffs, and that sometimes you go somewhere, and if you're coding somewhere, I need to focus, and I can't like be distracted by sound. So you look really dumb, I get it. Who's the special guy over in the corner? That's me. But again, if I need to go somewhere, I might be between jobs, I need to sit down and I need to do work, and so that allows me to do it. It also, if you have kids at home, I had a home studio that I worked out of, and instead of like If you read anything online, it tells you, don't be interrupted by your kids, close the door. Like, I wasn't closing the door on my kids. So I could just put those on, and like, obviously they could be burning behind me and I wouldn't hear them, but at least they could still tap me and be next to me when I worked. In the back right-hand corner is a perception neuron mocap system. And this was kickstarted about, I think it was 2 years ago. So I paid $300 for it. Now they're, I think, $1,300. But I came from mocap, I came from animation. And so the ability to get animation in your game really quickly is so valuable. And it may suck, it depends on where you're shooting. Like, it could be really good, it could be terrible, but it doesn't matter. It is way better than you sitting there and try to hand key something really quickly. So this is my kit. It's a mobile game studio, right? So I can sit down, I can show up, I can do art, I can do code. The laptop PC has a pin that goes with it. So everything I use, all of my apps are pin enabled. So like Windows Ink, as you're starting to see these things come on board, give them a look because they are really, really valuable to your workflow. This is the core of my tool set. So Blender, look, if they redesigned the Blender logo and it was like blue and this cool gray, black, more people would use it. I get it has this stigma, but it is a fantastic application. Like, I've used Maya, Max, Motionbuilder, all of it, and I would choose Blender hands down today. Now, had you asked me that before, I never would do it. But it took a little bit of getting into, but Blender has a fantastic community, a fantastic set of add-ons. There's not been a job yet that I haven't been able to do using Blender, and it freaks people out, but it's really awesome. Unity is what I use for my game development. I have Unreal experience, but I prefer Unity because it thinks more like an artist thinks. And I'm not doing really, really high-end graphic stuff with lighting. Visual Studio Code is a very lightweight version of Visual Studio. It's just come up in the last couple of years. The install on a regular Visual Studio is like humongous, like 5 gigs or something. And so again, when you're moving around and you're moving computers, you're switching things, like you want to, I try to keep that file size small. And then the bottom one is Leonardo. This is like a kind of beta version of a Leonardo app. It is the best drawing application ever made, especially if you do like isometric art or anything. They're such great tools. So that's my core. This is some of the work that I'm doing or have been doing through Blender and Unity and different tools. I'm working on my own game called Slingwitch. You can talk to me about that offline because we don't have any time. This is a 4K texture. You can't really see it because this isn't a 4K projector, but this is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. This is in Blender. This is I was making a vertex paint so that I could texture terrain inside of Blender and see it before it got into the engine. And it's using a couple of, I think it's the Quixel Suite textures. But I need a 4K monitor to see what I'm actually painting. You would be amazed at how much stuff you will miss looking at a tiny, like I see people working all the time on these 17-inch monitors, like, what are you doing? You know, and then people ask me the same thing, like, doesn't that burn your retinas out sitting that close to a TV? No, you're sitting that close to a TV all the time anyway. You're just looking at more of a TV. But the resolution that I can get out of that, I can actually see what I'm doing, right? And so 4K is coming, like winter is coming, 4K is coming. So get your tools up to speed, right? And get them so that you're working, because you don't want to do a job and then have somebody come back and say, oh, the resolution doesn't look right or you missed something. Okay, so visual design flow, extremely important. Every day I use these tools. And the first thing I'm going to say from this toolkit is a book called Drawing Ideas, right? This is a book about how to draw stuff well that you're presenting, right? Your ideas may be great, but if you can't like communicate those to other people, especially people you don't work with, they're never going to happen. And so like your reputation precedes you as how well, you know, the work you've done in the past. And so when you have a good idea and you're walking into a studio, you need to draw something really awesome on the whiteboard because they don't have blackboards. But so if you can actually make a really nice presentation by hand drawing, right? And I get most people aren't artists. This book will help you with that. But it gives you like even ways to draw arrows that look awesome. Like there's an arrow pointing to this. Like there's an actual like 1/3 to 2/3 like ratio in that arrow, and it works. Like, hey, that's a good looking arrow. And you would be amazed at just how improving your drawing skills makes you seem that much more legit. Of like, hey, maybe this guy has good ideas. Look how well he draws on the whiteboard. So yeah, pick that book up. It's really good. The second thing that I use is called Flowdia. It's like $5 on the App Store. And this is a flowchart app. And this is a way that you can communicate design ideas in a much clearer input-output way to programmers or even to other design teams, right? So this is an example of a game that we're working on now over at Gear. And so even before we get to the stage of, hey, we're going to make a prototype, we go through and do these design flows. And this is like, what is the decisions that the player is going to be making, and how do those impact the rest of the game? Before any code is written, like it takes like, I don't know, 20 minutes to put one of these together. But you need a good app that's going to do it, and this one does fantastic. It's like $5. The next one is a mind map software. I think it's on Windows, it's called Mind Map Pro. On Mac, it's called Ideament. I use the crap out of this app, and it is just kind of, I guess, kind of the same thing as a flowchart, but it's much more freer, whatever, that's not a word. You can edit that out. It is like the way you're thinking, how fast it moves, the way it reacts to a tablet. It just works really, really well to be able to put ideas together. And even as like the top left is the class diagram for the game I'm working on now. So it helps you realize scope visually before you make the mistake of actually implementing all that stuff in code, right? And again, it comes back to this visual awareness. And again, I'll pitch to Blackboard. Like, I have thousands and thousands of pictures of ideas and problems that I've solved. I don't know why I save it. Like, somehow I'm going to make this awesome book about all the crazy stuff I went through as an indie dev. And here's the proof. It's like my, what is it, the movie where the guy writes on the wall because he's crazy. This is my proof. But I swear, get a Blackboard and you will be amazed at the difference it makes in your office or your studio. It's something about chalk and you know, it was drilled into your head as a young person. Next group of apps is what I call my organization of information. I'm a process junkie, right? And the reason for that is I'm jumping between code to I'm building terrain to I'm texturing something. I am never in a constant zen of, oh, this is my workflow for 2 months. No, it is like I have 2 hours to be in this, 2 hours to be in this. And sometimes I get back to things and I have no idea what I was doing. Like, wait, what was I doing? And so I need to quickly get to that process and have access to it. And it changes all the time. So like your documentation has to stay up to date, so your tools have to be fast. So the first tool I'm gonna say definitely add to your toolkit is Ginkgo. It's an online app. They just created an external version, and the way that it works is it's horizontal treed. So over on the far left side, you have basically your base list of ideas or where you want to start that idea. And as you click on each of those cards, it pulls up the relevant cards in a horizontal order. Right, so story, anything that follows any kind of tree order, discussions, process, any of that, this app is fantastic for that. It's like you get 3 of the boards for free, and then it's like $4 if you want whatever. They just released a web version. If you go now, you get the beta for free, and it's unlimited boards, and it's on your computer. The next one is Plumbago. It is a Microsoft Garage project. It's a design journal app. Again, like if you don't keep your tools ready, you won't use it. Like I don't know how many of you have a sketchbook. I have like 10 sketchbooks and they're all empty. And I keep buying them no matter what. Because paper is easy, right? It's easy to use, you have access to it. So again, your tablet PC needs to be near you. You need to be able to hit a button, turn it on, and write your notes. But then later you want to come back and read those notes, like keep a record of what you do. I think it's going to be valuable. I can't confirm that. Later. Next is Pinterest, right? Pinterest is not just meatball recipes and hair styles. It is the best tool right now for visual development, right? So in the past, we went online, we gathered all these images, thousands of images, and you stored them on a disk somewhere and never used them again. But in this day and age, like you need a team to be able to look at the same reference together. Like, hey, we need to go out and I need to look at a bunch of these, you know, hey, here's a low poly game that we're working on, gather some reference, pin it to the Pinterest board, and let's talk about it in the morning. We can pull this up at work, and everybody can look at the same Pinterest boards. Also, process now is moving so fast. YouTube is the instructor. And so when you find something good on YouTube, again, like I'll pin it, and then next time I get back there, oh, okay, what was that retopology video I needed? Okay, go right here, and then my process is there. The other cool thing is it's public, so everyone can share. So like if you want to go on my board, it's Gregory Shives. I have like a gajillion boards on all different kind of things that has my key process. Like as I get something new, I delete the old and move on. So you can all benefit from that shared information. The next app is called PureRef, all one word. And this is for when you actually get done with that 1,000 images and you need the 5 that your direction is going with, right? And so this is really good for crits. So if you're sitting down, you need to pull up work, it kind of isolates everything on the screen, has a nice background. You can isolate values really quickly by toggling a screen, like here's your value structure. And like I use this mostly to get my final reference that I'm going to be using. So like all my key references are in PureRef. And then Windows Ink, like this used to be my life. I have a substance abuse problem with note cards. And my wife can confirm that. Like she literally told me she will not buy me any more note cards. And I realized I had a problem then. And so again, this is how I used to store my process. And I even had this ring that would go through all of them. I had this like hole puncher and everything, this ridiculous system of how to keep my note cards organized. And so now I just use Windows Ink. I have one image of 4 different cards. Windows Ink has a nice thing. You just pull up the image, you can immediately start writing, it writes on it, and then you can save it, and it's timestamped, so it automatically, like, you can go back through time. So it's a great tool. Another app that is huge, like this has made a huge difference in my development is Clubhouse. And so I don't know how many of you guys use Jira or some kind of task tracking or some kind of to-do list. Like this is the future of to-do lists and task tracking. Right? Especially if you're on a team and you need to work together, you need to understand Agile, you need to understand software development. If you're making games, and this tool is free for teams up to 3, and then it's like super cheap after that. But it has a really nice workflow from stories to it's kind of a Agile Kanban, or however you say that, mix. And so you can have your boards like an artist at work. They need to know like when they're modeling, texturing, what stage is that app in, and that's not necessarily like a backlog to do, in progress, verify kind of thing. So, but it can accommodate both of those workflows, and so it's really a fantastic app. Touchscreen. So if you've used a tablet, you instantly realize you don't have a keyboard anymore. How does that work? Like your brain will break because you are so used to using hotkeys if you use Photoshop or anything else. And so here's an app that gets you around that process. So this is called Tablet Pro. Great name. But on the left, you can kind of see it. You can pre-program all these buttons, the colors, what they do. And so it launches from your dock, easily opens. It has the thing where you can actually like be drawing and change the size of your brush and it doesn't like interrupt you. And so like when you have the Alt key down, you can still do your work. And it works really well. So again, like this has to go over to your 3D app as well. Like you have to have this functionality. Like I can't just go to Blender and, oh, no keyboard, sorry, no work. And so there is a add-on, mouse look navigation. Does anybody use ZBrush in here? Yeah, okay, so in ZBrush you can just move the pin, and as long as you're not over the model itself, you can navigate the mesh. Okay, this add-on does the same thing for Blender. And I don't know if this video is gonna play. We'll see. Okay, good. And this is a quick demonstration to show you what that means. So when you're not over the model, you can move with the pen. So there is no Alt, hold in, there is none of that. You can automatically work. And so the way that I have my tablet set up is my Blender version on my tablet is set up for sculpting and this type of workflow. And then my PC is set up for the standard Maya workflow, or Blender mouse keyboard workflow. There's also another one that's called Pie menus, so you can custom make your own menus in Blender. So all I have is this one assigned to the click button on the pen, and I've structured this network so that every tool that I use in Blender is off of that menu in some way. Sometimes it's like 10 steps to get there, but I can get to everything off of the pen, right? And so again, that's key. Like I have to still work. I can't just say like, oh, look, I'm using a tablet. Because if you can't get your work done, they're like, throw that thing away and go get something that works. Gray boxing levels in Unity. A really good tool is ProBuilder. So if you use that, and I gotta speed up. Yeah, and first-person viewport, Shift-W in Blender gets you right into a first-person camera, WASD. So if you're using that for layouts, it works fantastic. That's pretty simple to think about. Motion capture. If you don't have to do motion capture, that's even better. So Mixamo is a website that has a crap ton of free mocap that you can upload your character to and download it instantly. Like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of animation sets. So the best kind of mocap is the mocap you don't have to do because someone already did it, right? But when I have to do mocap, I have that perception neuron that is in the kit, and it works fantastic because it is cordless. I can go on stairs, I can go wherever I want to go and record mocap. Like supposedly it works underwater, but I don't really want to try that. But this is what it looks like. You look like a total dork wearing it. But to get motion in the game in 5 minutes, like, it's priceless. So I think these are about $1,200. I took a risk on Kickstarter. It's the only one I think that's worked out for me. And so it comes with this software, and this is the results that you get. So this is Axis Neuron, and it comes with a software that actually has cleaning tools. It has, you can see if the nodes, if they're all online. It exports various types of FBX. They have a little thing that's keyless that you can actually turn your recording on and off with this little key fob. It's ridiculous the amount of stuff for $300 they gave away. But yeah, so it's, granted it's not Bobby's studio, so it's not like if you got 3 guys rolling around fighting, this is probably not your system. But if you just need a quick walk cycle or a quick animation temp stuff, this is so valuable. And you're going to pay $10,000 a day at a Mocap studio. So just buy 3 of these and call it a day. This goes right into Blender. So there's again add-ons that I can put right through. It's called Make Walk. And this comes right into Blender and even uses their auto rigging system. So Blender has a fantastic auto rigging system called Rigify. It has cats, dogs, almost like Max's cat system, if you guys have ever used Max. But getting your pipeline to work through these tools, sometimes that's you writing custom stuff. And so that when there is that community of developers out there, it makes it really valuable. Breckle Pro hands. This is the Leap Motion. I use a Leap Motion. They're $40. You can pick them up. This is for finger capture. So most mocap systems will not capture fingers. This system does capture fingers. However, it's not always the best. So I would say any animator should be using this tool. This is Breckle Pro hands. It's I can't remember what it costs, $50 maybe. But hand animation is so key to the life of your characters. You can get it from just pantomiming and recording that animation and then putting it into your 3D app. It gets you hand animation in 10 minutes. And animating hands suck. So yeah. They also have one for face, which is fantastic. See if it'll play. It won't. Yeah, there's a video here, but Pro Face uses the Connect, and it's fantastic too. It goes over 20 blend shapes, and you use the Connect for facial animation. It exports out an FBX and can go into your face rig right onto it. Motionbuilder, okay, there is nothing as good as Motionbuilder. I get it, Autodesk, you have us. I'm trying to find a way around this. I'll let you know if I do. But right now, Motionbuilder is pretty awesome. 2D content, Krita is a Photoshop replacement, complete Photoshop replacement, excellent brush engine. You can even use the alphas from your Photoshop brushes, but I get it. Some of you love Photoshop. Go ahead, pay the $9, whatever. Krita is really good. I love it. It has this awesome brush toggle that you can get all your brushes from the mouse key. Here's some of the work I do in Krita. I don't do much painting. Webcam is a web app for concepting. It's online, it's free, and it has the noise. I don't know if you guys ever used Alchemy back in the day. You could put your audio music into your brush and do some crazy stuff. And this is the same thing online. It's kind of a noise brush. I use it for concepting. Characters, shapes, shape language. This is Leonardo. Check it out. 3D content creation, Fuse, Adobe Fuse right now is free. It creates realistic live characters in about 20 minutes. Here's some examples of the characters that I've been able to create with it. You can upload this, push of a button, you get skinning, rigging, and it puts you into that animation window I showed you before. So good. Unfortunately, Adobe bought them. So we'll see where it goes, but right now everything is free. Marvelous Designer, if you guys haven't used that yet, you need to use it. If you're doing character models with clothes, it is real-time sewing of clothes for digital characters. It's insane, but it is so good. And so this is what the tool set looks like. You actually make patterns for the clothes, and it sews them in real time. And you should never be modeling clothes again because this is that good. And there's a pretty cheap license that you can get. Character creators, there's also one in Blender that's fantastic. It's called Manuel Bastoni Lab. They just released a new version yesterday. This is a totally awesome app. It's SculptGL. It's a free sculpting app. So ZBrush on the web. And it is hella good performant. So it's WebGL or SculptGL. So check that out. Weightlifter app for Blender that gives you slope, height, and runoff for your textures, immediately from a terrain. It'll automatically get those for you and put it into the vertex color. This is called Sketch Retopo. If you do retopology for characters, this allows you to draw with a pen and retopologize your characters. Like, super cool. You're not technically supposed to use this, though, because there is a license, white paper kind of stuff, but just check it out. See what you think. Yeah. Max Tools, there's a great plugin for Max Tools inside of Blender. Do not remap your hotkeys, please. You will hate yourself later. User interface, I use M+DEV. It's a resolution-independent app. And I also use Pixate, which is an app that allows you to take your sketches right to the device. And so you're not doing any coding. You just import your Photoshop sketches or Krita sketches, and then work from there. Sorry, I'm probably going over. Pixate is really good. Procedural, if you like Houdini, anyone use Houdini? Blender has a version of that. It's called Sverchok. Check it out. It's really cool. Shaders, I use Shader Forge in Unity. Secret to shaders is matte caps. These are my water shaders. All these are the same matte cap per shader. So use your matte caps. Look at matte caps. You can do some really amazing stuff with them. They're hella performant, and they're the secret to good shaders, at least water shaders. And tune smoke. Yep. And I'm up. So here you go. Spend your money on good hardware, not on software. There's great software out there that's cheap. And make sure you're buying stuff that's mobile and that you can work on the road. And my Twitter is operator_23, and you can get this presentation there. And sorry, that was the fastest overrun of a presentation ever. So thank you very much.